Hey, good morning, Maddie. That's absolutely right. Let me just quickly run you through some of those numbers that we heard from the finance minister late yesterday evening after they'd announced this 2020 budget. The total expenditure, $272 billion. The budget deficit forecast, though, at 187 billion Saudi riyals, and public debt will sit around 26% of GDP, with the total revenue coming in around 833 billion Saudi riyals. Now, just walking you through this within the historical context of Saudi budgets, this one is not one of the expansionary budgets that we have seen in the past. It's a major pullback. I asked him, though, would you characterize this as an austerity budget? He said, no, this is very much in line with what we've been trying to do with Vision 2030, diversifying our income away from oil revenues. We've managed to boost up non-oil revenues over the last couple of years, as much as 30% of this budget. It's going to be really interesting, I think, going forward to see how all this plays out against the backdrop, of course, of the big day tomorrow here in Riyadh when the Aramco IPO lists on the Tadawul on the local exchange. I asked him specifically to address claims that we've heard again and again, including in my interview with General David Petraeus just a couple of weeks ago, that this is a country running out of money. Listen in.
That is actually very interesting. We have the third largest foreign reserves in the world. Unlike so many other countries, we also have government reserves, deposits with the central bank that other governments don't have. That stands today at about 500 billion Saudi riyals, short of 500 billion Saudi riyals. Our aim is actually to slowly slow the drawdown and then rebuild the reserves as we control expenditure and grow our revenue.
So they're wrong. You're not running out of money.
No, we are not running out of money. And if you look at our balance sheet, it's not only deposits with Aramco. We have a lot more deposits with SAMA. We have a lot more assets. We have the PIF, which is a government assets that is being managed by PIF, which is in excess of trillion Saudi riyals. They are going to get more revenues, even more. So they will have more asset under management. We have other assets that are being run by other institutions. We have significant funds that are sitting in the development funds, as you know, which supports the private sector in loans that these are repaid and reinvested in the economy. So there is a lot of assets at our disposal if we need them. I don't think we will in any near future.
Now, something that was announced over the last 24 hours is the idea that some of these Aramco revenues will be funneled back, obviously, into the country's budget, and they are going to be funneled directly to the Public Investment Fund. Of course, that's the sovereign wealth fund, the investment arm of the sovereign wealth fund of this country. One of the big questions, of course, is if this budget is a direct reaction to the fact that initially, of course, the Aramco IPO was thought to bring in as much as 100 billion to these state coffers. Now it looks like only 26 billion, at least initially, will come off the Aramco IPO for Saudi Arabia. I asked him about that specifically. Listen in.
I have always said, and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, when I was asked last year, he said the market will determine this. We believe, actually, the value of the company is in excess of 2 trillion. The price that is determined by the market is the price that is determined by the market.
There you have it, though, Maddie. Essentially, there, the finance minister saying that we're a country that believes that this Aramco IPO is worth 2 trillion, but the market sets the valuation and we're content to sit with it, at least for now. It's going to be really interesting, I think, going forward, because something that I had the chance, of course, as you know, to speak to the oil minister about last week, as well as the finance minister, is about the potential for an international listing on the pike, and they left the door open.
Right, so tomorrow is, of course, the big day, and it will be interesting to see how the stock performs on day one of this IPO. You're obviously in Riyadh now. Are you hearing anything when it comes to the performance of how we might see the stock trade on the first day of trade on the Tadawul? Of course, anything can happen. We have oil prices on the back foot now for the last couple of days or so. That's not something the Saudis are going to be liking, particularly given all of the hard work that they did at OPEC, engineering that 500 barrel per day cut, plus in addition taking voluntarily 400,000 barrels out of their own production themselves as well. It hasn't really had the effect. Yes, oil prices up 7% last week, but it hasn't necessarily had the effect you'd think that the Saudis were hoping for as we count down to this Aramco IPO tomorrow.
No doubt about it, Maddie. And remember, of course, that this doesn't have just to do with the price that they're looking for as this Aramco IPO hits the market tomorrow. It's also about getting through that first quarter. It's also about actually supporting shale producers. Remember when I spoke with His Royal Highness, the Energy Minister, he was talking about, when I head to Houston, I expect everyone to be greeting me with open arms, given the fact that we've seemingly have given them this gift. But I think it's also interesting to point out that when we talk about what's happening right here in Riyadh, I mean, the opinions that I've heard have been pretty wide-ranging externally. Internally, though, they expect this is a stock that's going to trade up. There is excitement about this Aramco IPO that I have to say we're still waiting and watching for clues as to what exactly the rollout of this is going to be, because typically, here in the kingdom, it's one of these things where they tell you a little bit and then at the last minute they tell you a lot, and it seems as if that's the case at the moment. Hey everybody, it's Hadley Gamble from our new CNBC Middle East Bureau in Abu Dhabi. Thanks for stopping by. Now to watch more, you can try one of the videos that just popped up on your screen. And don't forget to subscribe.